How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the James Lab podcast. And today our special guests are David and Jane from Vermont Dry and Cure Technologies. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing excellent.
That's a handful of a company name. How did you guys come up with that?
Well, we started developing a technology for cheese aging rooms. And why'd that come about? Because you made cheddar in Cheddar, England for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
You made Romano in Emilia Romano for hundreds of years. And then in Vermont, they decided to start making cheese because the price of milk dropped and they needed to do a value add. But they didn't have any caves in Vermont. It's all granite.
Wow.
So they would struggle with the aging. Also, if you go back several hundred years, even not that far back, cheese was regional and it was seasonal. It was made during the times their herds lactated. The herd was feeding on a certain type of grass, had a certain fat-milk ratio, and made a particular cheese in that area. Very regional. Now, people want to make any kind of cheese, any time of the year, anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So the cave in Cheddar, England was no longer available in Vermont to make cheddar cheese.
Right.
And so you had to replicate that environment to set the cheese up so it can age. And people were doing it with air conditioners and other comfort cooling equipment trying to hack it.
Right.
And we're struggling. So that's when we were faced with the, hey, could you come up with a solution so we can create this cave environment? So it's all right, what's unique about a cave? And a cave has extremely stable conditions.
Yeah.
So we realized we had to get to stable conditions, and you can't do it with conventional air conditioning, dehumidifiers, and mechanical equipment. So that led to the development of Vapotrol technology, where we're able to hold stable vapor pressure. And I think Jane can comment on how do we wind up talking to cheesemakers.
Yeah. Well, we got here. It's sort of a roundabout way to get to the cannabis universe. But we owned a restaurant in Vermont. Dave and I were corporate refugees out of the New York area. And one day we looked at each other and we were like, it's time to get out of here and go do something else. And we wound up in Vermont and we had a restaurant and a 12-room inn, 50-seat restaurant. And we made a lot of friends with the local cheesemakers. And we were really committed to like the farm to table movement and learning more about farming and about sustainability and food systems. And we met a lot of great farmers and cheesemakers. And that was sort of the basis of the restaurant. And that's how we wound up talking to all these cheesemakers and befriending them. And then the next thing you know, David started inventing again. So he's
loves inventing.
Yeah.
And you could just tell. You could just tell. Talking to him for 5 minutes, you'll understand that he's an inventor. He's someone who loves creating. And, we've met on a handful of occasions. You were there at my dinner in Vegas.
Absolutely. Wouldn't miss that for the world.
That was a lot of fun. I enjoy cooking for people. I feel like cannabis and cooking go so hand in hand, and food and cannabis go hand in hand. I feel like they're both something that brings people together from different places, different walks of life, that can appreciate quality food, quality ingredients, a quality end product. So yeah, it's a pretty amazing thing that we're here at the infancy of this industry as well. You coming from cheese and having this background where you can apply and kind of put your fingerprint on the plant and being able to move the plant forward in a unique way that nobody else has done before.
Yeah. And then the progression was once we were doing cheese, and there's ACS, American Cheese Society, where 3,000 artisan cheesemakers gather once a year somewhere in the country, and major competition. And after a couple of years, there's best in show, first, second, and third place. And very often, at least 2 of the ribbons were facilities that had our technology in their cheese aging rooms. Wow. And what we started learning then was the science about water activity, food preservation, bound and unbound water to get to a shelf-stable product, which then led to charcuterie. Yeah. Because the same science is with charcuterie, you got to get rid of your unbound water. So when you cut into that salami or whatever, it's not rancid inside.
How about that prosciutto that you were carving at your party?
Oh yeah. It's one of those amazing things, and you can apply science to so many different things, especially the curing, things that need to be cured, cannabis being one of them. charcuterie, cheese.
Uh-huh.
They're all better cured, cured properly. And taking a scientific approach gives you repeatability. And I
Right.
think you can have an artisanal product and have science evolved and have repeatability, and I think that's the beauty of it. You look at the best cheeses out there, the best meats out there, the best cannabis out there. It's consistency is one of those important things with all of those things so you can be successful time and time again.
Yeah, that's what's key is the repeatability.
Yep.
And what then happened is understanding what was going on with cheese and meat, and then thinking about, having smoked for 50 some odd years, maybe 60 years,
Yeah.
it was like, okay, why do we dry a cannabis flower? Well, we can't smoke it. If we pick it, it's too wet, it won't burn.
Yeah.
And if we try and store it, it's going to go moldy because there's free available water.
Mhm.
So that's when we built a little model of
Yeah.
what's in a giant cheese room, because no one's going to give us a 2,000 square foot drying room to try this on. And so we gave it to a grower and said, put some flour in here.
Yeah.
All I want to know is whether it destroys it, whether it comes out okay. And 2 weeks later, he was like, I don't know what this thing is, but I've been doing this for 20 years, and this is some of the best flour I've ever produced.
Yeah.
And that's when we knew we were on to something. And built a couple of more units and a couple more. And then we kept getting this anecdotal, this is amazing. The flour that comes out of here, what's special about it? And that's what then started the journey of, okay, what does this technology do that's unique to the flower that no other technology before does?
Yeah. Well, and it's the size of a wine fridge. It's something that you as a home grower, I feel like it's something that you can afford. It's not the cheapest thing, but it's also, you're getting a quality end result that you can't get any other way. So many people are like, oh, 60-60. 60-60. And that was always the solution for the longest time. And people don't even know where that came from. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Well, my belief is 60-60 came from someone going, wow, it's raining today.
Yeah.
And we can't leave the flour out. It's not going to dry. It's going to go moldy. We got to bring it inside.
Yeah.
Well, let's turn on the air, in a room with an air conditioner. Well, if you turn down an air conditioning thermostat, it only goes down to 60 degrees.
Yeah.
You can't go any lower.
Nope.
And you turn it down to 60 to force the compressor to run.
Yeah.
And then it consistently runs. Now, what's interesting is you can do amazing flour, but everything, the stars and everything has to align, whether it's the local weather, the dew point, the region you're doing it in, or whether the air conditioning and that room that you're bringing your flour in and the dehumidifiers are sized in such a way that it creates the right results.
Yeah.
But what people then find is, wow, I just produced amazing flour, and then a couple of months later, wasn't the same. And then they start going, well, was it during cultivation? Was it something in my grow room? Or was it variability in the dry cure store phase of it?
Mm-hmm.
And all we're doing is providing a consistent, repeatable result. And, we have facilities that go, there's a big grow medical, and they said, now when we see the output of our product after post-harvest, there's variability. We don't even look anymore at our dry cure. We jump right before that and go to cultivation and say, what do you guys change? The flower is coming out different at the other end, because they know the dry cure consistently gives them a 0.6 water activity time and time again, no matter what the time of year is, what the season is.
Yep.
And that's where, back in when I was doing a lot of cheese facilities, in the presentation, we'd show the broken alarm clock and say a clock is right twice a day,
Right.
even a broken clock.
Well, so for those of you that don't know, I think David can touch a little bit on moisture content and water activity and why they're different and how you can get different results.
Okay, so water activity is the fundamental science of bound and unbound water. Once you get down to a 0.6 water activity, mold microbes can no longer grow because there's no longer unbound water for them to feed on. All the water molecules are now bound up in the structure, in this case of the flour, but it could be in a salami. It could be in a piece of cheese.
Right.
A favorite one of mine is the crackers with the peanut butter.
Mm-hmm.
And now the peanut butter is creamy in there and the crackers are crumbly and crispy. ever wonder why the cracker doesn't get soggy when it's stuck in the bag with that creamy peanut butter? And the science behind that is they're both at the same water activity. So there's no transfer of moisture between the peanut butter and the cracker.
Learn something new every day.
Right.
Hey, that's a great analogy, but yeah, I think that's amazing. I did not know that myself. So.
Yeah. So there's lots of food science that backs up water museums, even rare documents. They want those rare books, maps that they're storing to be to 0.6 water activity or below. So that way, when they go retrieve them, it wasn't eaten by mold.
Yeah.
And that's how they keep the documents safe. Now, percent moisture. Percent moisture talks about the total moisture in that flower.
Right.
Okay. It doesn't differentiate between bound and unbound. So how you would measure total moisture, let's not talk about the 2 probes with the moisture meter that you'd use for a 2x4, but the correct way would be you weigh a flower, then the flower is heated to boil off all the water in it, and then weigh it again. And the difference in weight was the total water. But some of that water was bound and some of it was unbound. And what we're learning is different cultivars, when all dried to a 0.6 water activity, will have different percent moisture because of the different flower structure and how water is held in there.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, the science, when you start getting into it with different tissue types, you have completely different results. You know, I mean, not completely different, but you have varying results. You know, I think for the longest time, we thought it was like, okay, well, we just have it this, and this, and we follow this recipe and we get this result. And it's not that simple. You know, as far as tissue types, you can look at something like Skittles, and Skittles, you know, it's also much looser. It has more, like, as far as if we're grinding it up and we're going to put it in a pre-roll, you know, because we were talking about pre-rolls earlier. We have a Roll Pros machine, and we use the Canatrol to adjust the moisture content between 10 and 12%, right? But with Skittles, it requires more plant material in the same amount, whereas cookies basically is a denser tissue type, and so it requires a smaller crutch size than Skittles, which requires a larger crutch size, right? But it's so funny because in the future, within the next 5 years, people are really going to start breeding specifically for single use or specific use cultivars, right? I think we're just starting to scratch the surface of that. And, you know, it's guys like yourself that are kind of pushing this forward and helping out with the science for people that are breeding, people that are doing things like using the Roll Pros machine. And, you know, it's like, we've got guys like Jack from Grove. He's one of my favorite people too. Kyle, there's a lot of guys that I respect out there that are pushing the plant forward, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And see, people are now learning to use this technology as a tool.
Yeah.
Sebastian, 420.
Yeah.
He's got one. That's how he knows he's got a standardized drying system.
Yeah.
So when he's trying stuff, and we have a couple other seed companies who are also standardized.
Yeah, we work with the guys at Mephisto, 420.
I'm a big fan of those guys too. Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think long-term storage for seeds, you can have seed fridges, Cannatrol seed fridges. I think that would be a great one. I would love to have a Cannatrol seed fridge. I've got a few seed fridges already. But I think the concept is there, and I think having these conversations, it kind of makes people aware of the possibilities, that it doesn't have to be the way you're doing it. There's other potentials, there's other possibilities, there's other things that we can try, and some of them may work and some of them may not, but like, we really need to experiment with everything in this industry and figure out what works, what doesn't work. And sometimes it's a matter of combining things. Like, we use the Green Bros grinder with the Roll Pros, and we use a Cannatrol in there.
Yep.
We're using Grove bags at the end for long-term storage, you know, and working with these brands that all have their lane, and it all works together in this amazing thing. I do the breeding, I do the genetics, and I have a cultivation partner. They have their role. And we're part of this chain, like this supply chain that comes down with this amazing end product. And at the end of the day, it's all about that quality product that you can repeat, give the customer, whether, you know, if we look at expanding, if you're in California or you're in New York and you're an MSO, or even if you're not an MSO, you just want to have your brand and your flower in multiple places. If they have grows, you want consistency. You want that McDonald's French fry. It doesn't matter whether you believe in McDonald's or not. You want the McDonald's French fry.
And that's what we're providing large grow operations. So it doesn't matter whether they're growing in Florida or the high desert in Denver.
Right.
They're going to dry and cure in a controlled room where the flower comes to equilibrium. We like to call it sous vide for weed.
Right.
Why? Because with sous vide, you're going to put that protein in the water bath. You're going to set that water bath to your finished temperature, and that's going to cook to that. Now, whether you have a small little steak in there or a giant steak, they're both going to come to the same finished temperature, and then you can leave it in there. It's not going to overcook.
Right.
Okay. Now, compare to conventional dry cure today using air conditioners, dehumidifiers. That equipment is constantly removing water. No different than a hot oven that's constantly putting heat into those steaks.
Right.
So now you put those two steaks in an oven. The small one is going to cook ahead of the big one.
Yeah.
You're always going to compromise. Am I going to overcook my little one or undercook my big one? And you got to take them out sooner or later. So what goes on in a typical dry room now is you put flour in there.
Yeah.
Your small popcorn's going to dry up faster than your big coolers. And someone's got to stand there and watch it and say, okay, guys, it's time to arrest the drying process. We got to pull it out of the dry room and then move it into sealed containers to arrest the drying process. And the problem was if they pulled it too soon, because they were using things like leaf branch snap, twig snap, versus a water activity meter, and it went into the sealed container and there was still unbound water, it'd go moldy. So they had to open the jar. But opening the jar in Florida in August is very different than opening a jar in Minnesota in December.
Totally. Well, and there's so many different climates and conditions, and as far as humidity is so different in different places. But getting consistency, and that's the thing is like in the 80s and 90s and even early 2000s, there wasn't a lot of consistency. If you would go to Denver, a lot of the weed was really dry and chalky, right? You go over to Washington and it was really moist and wet and didn't have a lot of terps. California had the perfect climate. I feel like everything's kind of perfect in California for a lot of things.
We were just talking about that. We were up north in the redwoods, and Dave said, "Look at the dew point."
And what I'm doing right now is I'm going to pull up the dew point here and in Denver. And it turns out that in Northern California, the dew point seasonally is where you want it for proper dry cure. Yeah. It's in the mid 50s.
Right.
Okay. But right now, let's go to Denver.
They don't even have dew point in Denver.
The dew point in Denver is 7 degrees.
Wow.
When you want a dew point of around 54 degrees, 53 degrees for dry cure. Now, Hawaii, you go over, let's see, Hilo, Hawaii. Right now, the dew point in Hilo, give me a second to come up, but it's not about relative humidity.
Yeah.
It's about vapor pressure and dew point. And because dew point is the absolute, the vapor pressure. So when we're talking about sous vide, here we're talking about equilibrium of the dew point or vapor pressure and the vapor pressure of the flower coming to equilibrium.
Right.
And then once the flower comes to equilibrium with the room, it can't dry any further.
Sure.
It's stable. So now you've gone from drying and you've transitioned right smooth into curing.
Mm-hmm.
There is no dry then cure. Right. It's a continuum, and you're looking at the, what's the term of the drying plan? Come on. No?
Senescence.
Senescence is the decomposition of what's going on once it's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And now what you're able to do is get that into a controlled, repeatable environment.
Yeah.
And so what we're learning is there are all kinds of chemistry that no one even thought of before. There's conversions of carbohydrates to sugar during this period of time.
There's the off-gassing of CO2. There's all these things that occur, these chemical changes that occur in the plant. And if you prevent some of them, then you end up with weed that smells like hay. Or, I think you dry it too fast and you lose volatile terpenes, volatile compounds, sulfur-based compounds, VOCs and VSCs, right?
Exactly. But now we've learned even further. So the very first flower that was dried, first people who were using it kept saying, wow, this flower is amazing. So what we did is went out and then did side-by-sides with conventional 60-60 and other ways people were doing it, and sent the flower out for testing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a journey unto itself because we then started learning what the labs were telling us made absolutely no sense.
Right.
It wasn't until we hooked up with CRC and Dr. Allison Justice, and she said, oh,
He's one of the best.
she was like, we need to take the lab variability out of this. So she did the extraction and then sent those to the lab who had the equipment to do the measurements. And then we started getting repeatable results.
Yeah.
And what we wound up seeing is typically we're seeing about 16% higher terpene retention. So that raised the next question. Why are we consistently getting higher terpenes? That's led to a lot of digging, research, and then it was under a microscope doing some grid counts. It was like, wow, when the product came out of a Canatrol with controlled vapor pressure, 1 to 2% of the trichome heads were ruptured. Conventional dry cure 60-60, 25 to 35% of the trichome heads were ruptured. So now we had the answer, why do we have higher terpene retention? We have the higher terpene retention because the trichome heads are not rupturing. And why are we growing the plant? We're growing the plant for trichome harvesting and what's in them. So here they're getting damage. Now, the question we're starting to work with is why are the trichome heads rupturing or not rupturing?
Sure.
Are the trichome heads rupturing because in a conventional room, the vapor pressure is going up and down with the compressors turning on and off in the dehumidifiers and the air conditioners, and that fluctuation of vapor pressure is causing the trichome heads to expand and contract, causing stress fractures because the cuticle is only 2 cell walls thick. Or holding the trichome steady is allowing the cuticle to either ripen or harden. We don't have the answer to that, or is it a combination of both? But what we do know
is it cultivar-specific?
That it isn't, because there are many cultivars and it's consistent.
Wow.
Yeah. No, this is now what kinetics.
Yeah.
Years ago, we ran into Dr. John McKay.
I know John.
You know John?
Yeah.
Crazy guy. Awesome guy. And he said, I haven't the foggiest idea, but I bet you when you find it, it's going to be kinetics. And it took almost 2 years.
Yep.
And sure enough, there it was.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
We were on a project together a long time ago. So.
Yeah. So that's what we're starting to learn. And now we're learning more about, what's happening during the cure phase, the chemistry.
Yeah.
What we're learning is about an 8-day period. We see 4 days until you get to 0.6 water activity for shelf stability. You want to see a minimum of 4 more days before you have somewhat smokable product.
Yeah.
But now we're getting into cultivar specifics. And, Jane talks about wine all the time and the comparison of different wines.
Yeah, I mean, you can give just about anyone a Cabernet grape and they'll handle it differently and come out with a different end result.
Right.
So what we're learning or what we're seeing is that we're giving cultivators the ability to have that level of control where it becomes the hand of the maker. It really is, how do you want your genetics to express? Yeah. How do you want your Cabernet? What do you want that Cabernet to taste like at the end? And that's where we're really giving some magic to cultivators, because we're giving them a level of control. Yeah. So they can sort of dial in their cure by cultivar. In fact, we have someone in Massachusetts, Nimbus. I don't know if you've ever run across them, but they produce some fantastic flower. Nice. And they've been running our systems in their facility. And the lead grower said to me, I wish I could have a room for every cultivar. So I could dry each one exactly the way I want it and really dial it in.
Well, there's different densities with the, and different size buds, right? So if we look at the inflorescence, there's different sizes, there's different shapes, there's different, like if you look at something like a sativa, it's going to have open bracts. You look at something that's more like that leans towards the shorter with the wider leaf drug varieties. I hate to say indica sativa, but using those morphologies, we look at the nested bracts. Those things are going to be denser and they're harder to dry. The moisture doesn't leave quite as easily as it does with the sativa morphologies. And so like really starting to dive into the science with people, it's amazing the stuff that we've learned so far up to this date. And then Sergio with the science of smokability that he kind of did last year, I feel like the Connect community did a great job at kind of promoting the science behind all this and getting people to talk about it, because a lot of times the information was held behind closed doors. And now I'm an open source sort of guy. I want to share everything with the world. I wrote a breeding book, and that's to share breeding with the world. And I love it when we can share so that we can all improve together. And it's not about gatekeeping or anything like that, because some people think that, information, you got to keep it close to the chest. Thing is with big business coming in, they're going to have the most expensive and highly paid scientists to be able to figure all this stuff out. We need to share as much as we can with everybody, especially when it comes to drying and curing and getting a better quality end product. This plant's for everybody. Everyone deserves to have access to a really good product.
Yeah. And there's an important point. There's a lot of people, 8 days.
Yeah.
No, every cultivar is different. There's some cultivars might need 30 days before it really starts opening up. Early on, we had 2 plants. It was a Jilly Bean and an Acapulco Gold. Who knows how real it was as an Acapulco Gold, but there were 2 different cultivars grown together, harvest them at the same time, put them in a cool cure.
Yeah.
And 8 days later, the Jilly Bean smoked really nice. The Acapulco Gold was, in my opinion, was disgusting, awful. Let's throw it away. It was just harsh, didn't taste good. Jane said, let's leave it in there.
Yeah.
30 days later, what was called Acapulco Gold was the new favorite. It was amazing. So that's when we saw a side-by-side, no different than a wine or a cheese.
Yeah.
This one, eat and drink ready now. The other one, you got to leave it for a while for it to do its thing.
Yeah, it's so funny with that. Like Skittles is the same thing. The terpenes that are in Skittles, they're very volatile, and I believe they're better consumed fresh. Right when it's done drying, you almost don't need to cure it very much. A couple days of cure, you're good to go. You smoke's amazing. It's the best it's ever going to be.
Right.
And other things, I was talking to Blair, Grower for Life. Blair, he's a small batch grower, does amazing flower. He said some of his best stuff is 90 days before it's at its peak.
Yeah.
And so I think that he's changing the way people are thinking, and by doing the stuff that he's doing, and his flower is absolutely, he does living soil, and his flower looks amazing, smokes amazing, checks all the boxes. And some of the stuff is 3 months old, but people think they want fresh. I want it the freshest. And
no.
You do want a fresh product in the sense that you want it at its peak, but you don't necessarily want, whether it's fish. A lot of people think they want the freshest fish when they go to a sushi restaurant.
Cure it.
That's not the way either, and it's so funny because there's a lot of misnomers and things people think that are the right way, like fresh fish. When you go to a sushi restaurant, you want to, the best restaurants, they cure all their fish. They're not serving you the freshest fish that's right off the boat. They're curing it. And certain fish, they don't need to be cured. But other fish needs longer cures, and I think cannabis is absolutely like that. And, it's not, once we get outside of everything's the same, we can start having the conversation of, okay, well, with this cultivar, what are we going to do? It's not the same in the grow room. Why would it be the same in the drying or the curing,
Right.
Think about bourbon. Think about, how we market bourbon. I'm an old CPG victim. So that was my corporate background.
Nice.
And that's sort of where we're headed.
Yeah. Well, even with wine, you look at Cabernets are 5+ years, right? And you look at a Zinfandel and we're talking about 2 years.
Yep.
And a Merlot, maybe 3, and then we're talking about the white wines. It's even shorter, and those are supposed to be consumed right away. Whereas a good Cabernet, you get a good French Bordeaux, you were talking about something that it peaks in 20 years.
Yep.
We don't know that about cannabis, but I think hash, once they start diving into the hash science, right, and aging and what it does with the aging and the flavors and, hashishinine, which is its own terpene that comes out from the aging process, we're going to start learning more about that. And maybe the best age hash is 5 years old. We just don't know. I think there's people that say they know, but until you actually test it and prove, you don't know.
Yeah.
So now if we can give growers a level of consistency, they can start to play and learn. But if we never have that consistency, those tools, we'll never be able to move forward because it's always going to be like, well, it was a rainy season and, it got moldy in the dry room, or it was really dry this year and I over dried. Now they can have very consistent environments and start to really dial in every little nuance and of aging and expressing those genetics.
So a couple questions. With the Canatrol, I think a lot of people are like, how can you dry in 8 days? What do you lose by going that fast? And the answer is nothing. But in your words, how do you dry in 8 days?
Well,
What's the secret?
Well, there's no secret.
Yeah.
It's just that we're setting the vapor pressure to what the pressure would be at 54 degrees Fahrenheit dew point. The flower comes in there with a much higher dew point because it's got a lot of free available water.
Right.
And the vapor pressure is going to equalize between the flower and the environment it's in. And it typically takes about 4 days. And we've learned that if you smoke that flower, it's not very good. So at 8 days, now you can start smoking it. But what we were just talking about, there are going to be cultivars. You're going to want to leave it in 30, 60, 90 days. At 8 days, it's not going to be very good. It might even still have a hate smell to it because it hasn't finished ripening and doing what it needs to do, that whole senescence chemistry that's going on in the flower. So there's no magic, 8 days. No, at 8 days, we're seeing the curve of a lot of the chemistry and gases and things all starting to equalize by day 8. But all the cultivars are going to be different. And as you said, the Zin versus the Cab, they're all different. So there's no magic 8.
Right. Yeah, but I do love that fact that you can get some cultivars that you can harvest in 8 days and smoke and enjoy. That saves you a week. Saves you a week from a traditional dry. Mine has always been 2 weeks. Low and slow.
Right.
I love cooking low and slow too. I enjoy the low and slow. Although when I'm on the grill or if I'm tossing saute pans around, I love high heat. But otherwise, low and slow if you want the meat done perfect. Cannabis done right. It was always low and slow before, and then we had our own little recipe where it was like we would start at 55% humidity and then up it to 58 after a few days and then 60 and then settle on 63 and 63. But yeah, 60-60 was most people went with a 60-60 for the longest time and not necessarily the best way to do it.
Well, so what happened is at the beginning when we were looking at cheese aging caves, they were all talking about relative humidity.
Yeah.
And once you break down the science, you can't control relative humidity because it's made of 2 variables, the temperature of the air and the amount of moisture in the air.
Right.
If you change the temperature, relative humidity changes.
Yep.
If you change the amount of moisture, relative humidity changes. So there's no dial to turn up and down relative humidity because it's being pushed around by these 2 variables.
Yeah.
So what we got into and what is unique about creating this environment is we have the ability to independently control the temperature and the vapor pressure or dew point.
Yeah.
Where when you use air conditioners or dehumidifiers, they shift both of them together.
Right.
Because they have what's called the sensible latent ratio. We broke the paradigm and now we give the equipment the ability to independently control the sensible and the latent. The sensible is the air temperature and the latent is the amount of moisture in the air.
Nice.
One of the presentations I do is, show 80% relative humidity on a winter day when it's 20 degrees outside, and I show 80% relative humidity on a summer day when it's 90 degrees outside. To show that 80% relative humidity or 60% relative humidity is not very meaningful unless you have control of the vapor pressure dew point and the temperature in the space. Once you have that, well, boy, you got a whole world of new control over what's going on.
Yeah. Well, like crop steering. You're crop steering in the cure.
Yes, exactly.
I love that saying too. Crop steering in the cure is basically what you're doing because all the growers who use crop steering know VPD. That's one of the most important things with crop steering.
Yeah.
And it's like we're measuring leaf surface temperature along with humidity and temperature and dialing it in that way. But, I love this stuff. And it's like, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next for you guys?
Well, you just brought up VPD and so many people talk about VPD in their dry room.
Yeah.
And my analogy is you take blood pressure of a person who's alive. 2 pressures, differential pressure. You know how the pump is working, the plant, how water is moving through the plant, coming out of the stomatas.
Sure.
That's VPD in a grow room.
Yep.
Once you cut that flower off the plant, it's dead.
Mhm.
Has anyone ever taken the blood pressure of a dead body? No, because there's no more pump. There's no
none.
more
Yeah.
flow.
Right.
That flower has a finite amount of water in it,
Mhm.
and that flower is going to just lose that water to come to equilibrium to the space.
Yeah.
So there's no VPD in drying.
Yeah.
There's the vapor pressure of the room,
Yeah.
and you want the flower to get to a 0.6 water activity, so you remove the unbound water.
Yeah.
And you don't want to go any lower than 0.6 because then every molecule of water you remove, you're removing sellable weight if you're in the business of selling it. And then also what we've learned is as you continue to remove bound water,
Yeah.
it doesn't smoke as well. It doesn't taste as good. You start really deteriorating the flower.
Wow. So yeah, my next harvest, we're going to have to experiment on a bunch of stuff, but I would love to write an article for High Times on crop steering in your dry room.
Uh-huh.
So I think that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what do you see next for the industry and for you?
Well, so in a lot of grow facilities that have our technology in their dry cure rooms, they go in there and go, I can't believe you hold the dew point vapor pressure in our dry room within a couple of tenths of a degree. Can you do that in our grow room? So we now have a facility in Massachusetts, 2 rooms. We're now doing some trials with CRC to actually document this. How much better is your grow going to be if you have true VPD control, not relative humidity?
Right.
I was talking to a couple of guys at Quest, and I said, let's look at a VPD chart.
Yeah.
And I said, across the top, you have relative humidity, right? And relative humidity is made up of what? Temperature and vapor pressure, dew point.
Yeah.
And now down the left-hand column, that's temperature.
Mm-hmm.
So wait a second. You now have a chart where when you change the temperature, you're changing the numbers on the left and across the top.
Yeah.
What kind of control is that? You need to have an X and a Y.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have a Y and an XY. So with our technology, we're able to dial in exactly the vapor pressure dew point. So by using the leaf surface temperature and knowing what the saturated vapor pressure is at the leaf, and then we control the vapor pressure in the room, we can consistently hold a pressure difference, a vapor pressure deficit or difference between the surface of the leaf and the room. And that's what we're starting to play with now.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, that is the future. That is absolutely the future. And I also see the future of the industry as a whole for home growers to be able to buy tents that are fully automated with AI, that you'll be able to have sensors in there that pick up leaf surface temperature, maybe a Cannatrol tent.
Uh-huh.
But I think that the potential for that is you don't need to know how to be the best grower if you can get a good recipe and you have good genetics. And then, I think everyone deserves accessibility to quality products. So you can put whatever inputs you feel comfortable with in there, and the room will help you grow. It'll assist you to grow better quality products, whether you don't have a lot of time or you don't want to hand water or do these things. Eventually, it's all going to be, if you have enough money, you'll be able to get quality products that you can control all the inputs and everything, including the drying.
But you just said something so important.
Yeah.
You got to start with good genetics.
Yeah.
We will get phone calls and people say, we put this flower we grew and you destroyed it. It's horrible. Well, what'd you grow? Yeah. Well, I don't know. I got this bag of seeds and I popped a couple of seeds, like no idea where they came from, what they are. And it's like, well, can't help you there.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because there's so many components to getting quality products out to the market. People don't even understand if they're smoking a joint or if they're smoking a vape cart or if they're seeing flour in a jar, what it takes to get to that point from the genetics, from seed to sale, all the way, the different steps that it takes and the different things you have to nail and get perfect for it to be an amazing product. Because if you don't start with good genetics, you're screwing yourself. But each step of the way, if you're not optimizing it, you may lose something.
Yep.
Right. And so that's really what we've started dialing in, especially in the last 5 years. People have really put attention to detail on the different things. When it was all medical and we had small lights, I think the flower was really good in a lot of ways. And I think there was a lot of passionate people doing it. But we didn't have as much science behind it. And now that we have science, the potential's pretty great for anybody who loves it to be able to do a great job with it.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I think it's really exciting to be able to give people that kind of power, give the community that kind of power on the home grow side, especially as the industry gets more and more corporate, bigger. And I think people want that control, especially people who are growing for themselves medically.
Yeah.
I think it's really important.
Access is the most important thing. And I think that's how we got here. I was just at the Dennis Perone documentary premiere in San Francisco at the Roxy. And I think a lot of people, either they weren't here when it happened or they just forgot how we got here to this point where cannabis is legal. And it started with the battle because of people with AIDS in San Francisco. Guys like Dennis Perone, who said people deserve to have access to this plant that helps them with AIDS and with cancer, and they were throwing people in prison over a plant. And so we've come a long ways from there, but it started because of people like Dennis Perone. And I just feel like we need to talk about that more so people understand that the medical side of it is so important and people deserve access, especially more than it doesn't matter what you believe. You should believe in everybody has access to medicine of their choosing as long as they're not hurting other people, especially plant-based medicine. And
Totally
being able
agree.
to grow your own allows you to put whatever inputs you want in it and grow it your own way. And we deserve that. I think as a society, as people, and not just in the US, everywhere.
Yep. And we're helping people do that.
Yeah.
Give them, some science
Right.
that's then repeatable and, set it and forget it. It's going to come out right every time.
Yeah.
But you got to put good stuff in.
Yeah. You have to have good inputs. You're only as good as your inputs with
That's
everything.
correct.
And it's like, there's no reason to use pesticides these days, guys. Start with good genetics, grow from seeds, get good seeds. You can do great stuff with home grows from seeds if you're growing for your own personal use. Seeds, clones, it's all available online now. Like literally direct to your doorstep, you can buy seeds, you can buy clones, you can buy them from us, you can buy them from other people. The accessibility is now there in the US. It's pretty amazing how accessible it really is. And then access to information with the internet, it's like you can find anything there. You want to learn how to use a Canatrol, you don't have to go buy a book. It's on YouTube. There's great YouTubes with Canatrol, not just from you guys, but even from other people that have bought them and used them.
It's so easy to use. You don't even need instructions.
Yeah.
It comes preset.
Plug and play.
Yeah.
Plug and play.
It is
Yeah.
plug
That's
and
the best
play.
is literally plug and play. You plug it in, you push go and you're good to
There's
go.
it's not magic.
Yeah.
It's not a magic box. It's just holding consistent conditions.
But so many of us love tinkering. So it's like, how can we, and I think that's part of, the people that grow the best are people that like to optimize stuff. So you got to have those people too, where it's like, well, if this is good, what happens if we do this? What happens if we do this? We can try all these different experiments and try to get the most amazing product possible. We want to optimize all these things and optimizing all of the touch points along the way. Even trimming, it's like CO2 trimmers for scale. I think CO2 trimming is really amazing.
Yeah, you like that.
Resonator, there's a couple good ones, but yeah, Resonator, I think he's got an amazing he's a small company. I was just amazed by the quality you can get from a machine trimming machine. And I'm a brush and finger guy. Like for me, I like trimming with the fingers. I like trimming with the brush. And then that's like a cold environment. You got to be at 60 degrees and 60% humidity. And then the leaves are brittle. And so when you go in with your fingers or you go in with a brush, you can get all that stuff off and the leaves break off and the buds maintain their shape and size and trichomes maintain their integrity. But it's like all of these touch points need to be addressed and we need to figure out, is this the optimal way to do it?
Right. But you need repeatability so you can try it different ways and know that what you are changing is causing the change and not other things outside your control that are causing the change. And then you really don't know what it is that you're doing.
Oh, and we used to do that all the time. There was like 18 ingredient recipes we used to feed the plant. And then you just switch recipes. You're like, this is better, but it's like, why is it better? It's really better to evaluate and change one thing at a time.
Oh, yeah.
When you're doing stuff and data collection.
Yep.
I think that's the biggest thing, whether you're drying and curing or whether you're growing, is collecting as much data as possible.
Yeah, we work a lot with CRC, as you know, and that's really what we're after, is getting as much data as we can and understanding what's happening with the flower. And it's not even necessarily about Cannatrol. It's about understanding what's happening with the plant so we can develop new products, that we can innovate to really get the best out of the plant.
Yeah.
So it's not always about the Cannatrol when we're doing science.
No, we're sharing this, and the whole industry is learning along with us.
Yeah.
You know, that's starting with the first unit. Everyone says, what's happening? We say, okay, let's dig in, figure out what it is that's happening here. And we're on this journey.
So do you guys have machines? You have a Canatrol that's for cheese and a Canatrol that's for charcuterie yet? Or
Not
curing
yet.
meats?
Yeah.
Man,
No.
you need to send one my way. Dry aged steaks and a Canatrol, yeah. Steakatrol.
Yeah, the Steakatrol.
Yeah. The stuff when we started with cheese, the huge cheese rooms with thousands, tens of thousands of pounds of cheese, several thousand square foot aging rooms is what we started with. And same thing in meat rooms and dry aged steak rooms, big facilities.
Right.
And then the Canatrol was a proof of concept. It's like, hey, let's try this technology that we put in big, massive rooms into a small unit, benchtop, to benchtop test it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we did. We built a prototype, and we needed a sealed box. So we bought a wine cooler, and then we gutted everything out of it and just used the sealed box that we then put our technology in to control the environment inside the box. And it was a proof of concept.
Yeah.
And now we've sold thousands of them all over the world. It was never intended to be a product.
It was a complete accident. The whole
Those are the
thing was
best
a
kind.
complete accident. Absolutely.
Those are absolutely the best kind.
Yeah,
Happy accidents like that. Yeah.
We took it to a show. You know, we were laughing about it. We took it to, I think, the first NECAN in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to one of the NECANs in Boston, and we put it on the table, and people were buying them. We were like, oh, wow, look at this. We've got a product.
Gotta go home and build some in the garage.
Yeah.
And that's how we started.
Yeah, started in the garage. I started in the garage too. I was growing plants.
Uh-huh.
You know, I started in the closet actually. And we came out of the closet and started growing in the garage.
Yeah, we were building 3 at a time in the garage.
That's how many fit on a folding table.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of our metrics were based on how many we could fit on a folding table.
Yeah, but guys like Kyle, he started in his garage with Row Pros.
Yep.
You know, Jack, he started in his garage with doing his technology with his stuff. Jack from Grove.
Yep.
Cullen from Green Bros, same thing. It's we start these things in garages, and they, through happy accidents and through discovery and hard work, a lot of hard work.
Oh, yeah.
I know you guys are hard workers, and it's like these things don't build themselves, and they don't sell themselves either. Unfortunately,
No.
I think that a good product will sell itself to a degree, but it's also you have to have a team, and you have to have good people, and that's what makes all these companies in this space so special, is the employees.
Yeah, that's really my specialty is sort of the culture of the company and driving the company to really do the right things in the industry. And we have an amazing team. Our senior leadership, our senior marketing team, and our sales team come out of the cannabis industry.
Wow.
So Dave and I did not come out of the cannabis industry. We came from corporate. So we felt it was really important to bring in sales and marketing that had that knowledge, had that sort of institutional knowledge about cannabis. And they brought a lot to the team, and the even down to the guys in production in Vermont. Everybody has the same kind of feeling for the product. Just about everybody, I think just about every employee that we have grows. So they all have Cannatrols at home, and it's great. It's
no one that works here is allowed to grow. Believe it or not, no one's allowed. Whether you're not allowed to
Contamination.
Yeah, we're trying not to contaminate.
Yeah,
there may be one exception, but for the most part, nobody is allowed to grow here, and it's just we don't want pests and pathogens brought in the building, and I think that's a big part of it. But yeah, and I think that because of what you guys do, that's great that your guys grow. I'd love to give you guys some seeds for your staff.
Happy to take them.
Yeah, we got all kinds of fun stuff.
We actually run an autoflower grow in the office.
Amazing. I specialize in autoflowers. A lot of people don't know that, but I've been breeding autoflowers since 2018, and I do specifically for row crop, for high THC production. But yeah, and we have some amazing cultivars that have really great terpene expressions.
Autoflowers have come so far. It's
so far
incredible.
Yeah.
But like Sebastian is always tossing us seeds from 420, and
nice.
And those are what we run at the office, and that's what's in our sort of in the cool cures in the office, and we bring that flower to shows, and we have little chillums that we give out. We'll stuff them and give them out, and it's kind of fun. But and everyone in the office gets some flower every now and then. We have Happy Fridays. And nice little 420 smoke circle after work, and
nice.
It's really nice. It's great that we have that kind of team. And even if you don't smoke, it's everybody still is pretty. I think we have a couple non-smokers, but everybody's a really good team. And so we will definitely grow your seeds.
I love it.
Yes, absolutely. And give you a full report.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. We have a lot of good consistency. We breed in larger populations. And so by breeding in larger populations, you get more consistent results, and we stabilize our stuff a little further than most companies. So yeah, and it's funny because with autoflowers, like I do white label I sell larger companies, autoflowers, they relabel. Also we do for large farms that put out, 100 acres, and with autoflowers, it's like, not like they're taking clones. They're basically putting all those out in the field, up to 15, sometimes 20,000 seeds per acre. Pretty wild, and then the amount of flower that produces, still pretty wild. And if you're making a few million seeds a year, even it's another one of those things that kind of, you start thinking of how much flower that puts out in the world. And I feel like this plant makes the world a better place. And so the fact that we're working with this plant makes us good people.
Oh yeah.
To a degree,
I'd like to think that.
I would like to think so too. And I think that it's one of those things that, like, when you're working with a plant that's this special, I think especially now, it's not as easy as it used to be. It's the industry has changed quite a bit, but this plant makes the world a better place in so many regards, as medicine, but it's so much more than medicine. It's part of community. It's part of culture. It's part of medicine. And, it's like, it's the same thing with chefs. I have a lot of respect for people in the culinary world, just like I have respect for people in the cannabis industry. It's like you're doing the Lord's work to a degree. You're providing an experience for people at the end of the day. And that experience is special.
It's really, it's funny that you talk about chefs, because coming out of the hospitality industry, owning a restaurant and delivering that kind of experience for people, it is about community. And there's so many parallels between cannabis and the cannabis community and the hospitality community. Yeah. The people we worked with in that community were amazing. People in hospitality, they understand sort of that human experience and want to give pleasure to people. People in hospitality just enjoy making people happy. And I think that's what brings that community together, just like cannabis. So I'm really happy to be in, coming from hospitality for I don't know, we were in hospitality for 12 years, then coming to cannabis. It's really a nice evolution for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved being in hospitality.
Yeah. And I feel like people in hospitality and food and beverage really understand cannabis people, and vice versa. You can take a cook and you can put him in a grow room and have him water. Vice versa, you can take a grower or a guy in a grow room who's basically doing the watering, the maintenance, all that stuff, and you could put them in a kitchen, and they understand speed is a condition of quality. They understand that repetition is important and consistency is important. And so you don't get that with a lot of fields, but with those two especially, you get a lot of that same interaction with whatever you're experiencing.
Definitely. Yeah, it's great. It's fun to be in these communities. It really is. We're thrilled to be here, and I hope we have a long run.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys will. I think you guys have a great product, and I feel like you can provide an experience for cultivators that have huge facilities, and you can provide a growing and a drying and curing experience and environment for home growers. Yep. And so I think that's it's important in you guys to have these two extremely different revenue streams that kind of tap into both markets. And, and they're both international markets too. So they're both going to be unfolding more and more every year because you're getting more home growers in other places around the world. You're going to have more and more large scale facilities in different places around the world that want the technology. And
we're already seeing it. We have facilities now in Argentina, Uruguay,
Thailand.
Thailand, Portugal.
These are big commercial grows.
Big grows. And it's great. And we're selling Cannatrols. We're selling the small units.
Wow.
All over the world now. I think we've sold over 15,000 units worldwide.
Amazing.
Yeah. So everybody needs a Cannatrol.
Everybody needs a Canatrol. Yeah, and it's great. And it's like, so we use our Canatrol with the Roll Pros machine, and we have one there. We just got the new one here that we're going to play around with here before we bring it over there. But the other one's sitting side by side with the Roll Pros machine, and we adjust people's flower. The flower that comes in from my cultivation partners over at SF Canna, literally that flower is perfect. It doesn't need to be adjusted. But the flower that we get from other people for tolling, it may be too dry, it may be too moist, but you can put it in the Canatrol and you can adjust it accordingly. You told me about an interesting solution when we were talking earlier about actually after it goes through the Roll Pros, maybe putting it back in the Canatrol, the joints in there, to get it back to a perfect environment.
Yes. So facilities have two. They have one where they're preconditioning the flower going into the Roll Pro or other rolling machines, and they take out just enough to keep the machine happy. They're not going to leave it laying around on the table in a bin or anything.
Yeah.
But then as the joints come rolling out and they fill up a tub, they put it in a separate Canatrol that's set at a different dew point to, bring it up just a little bit, the moisture content, if they had to bring it down a little lower by dropping the dew point to have the machine run flawlessly.
Yeah.
But we're seeing big, large facilities that, are also bringing in flower from many, many different sources and struggling with the inconsistencies. So they have rooms where now they put the flower in the rooms and leave it there to all homogenize and be the same. So then everything they're doing and processing, all the flower is in the same condition. We're also learning that because you're holding the right conditions, you don't get degradation of the flower. You're holding it at a 0.6 water activity. You can hold the flower for several weeks. And there are large buyers that are now arbitraging the market.
Interesting.
Yeah. So storage is a whole nother area for us to work in. We're seeing it really comes back to the whole supply chain. So post-harvest starts when you cut down the flower, but it really doesn't end until the consumer takes it home.
Right.
So you want that supply chain, that consistent supply chain from the minute you cut down the flower all the way out to the dispensary.
And hopefully that buyer then puts it in a good environment at their house before they consume it. Right. And it's like, so we go back to Lagunitas. I tell this story a lot, but it's an important one. But basically with beer, people shipped beer in trucks, in semis that were not refrigerated all around the United States. It wasn't until Lagunitas, Jeremy Marshall, Tony McGee figured out that if they put their beer in refrigerated trucks and shipped it out, people would get an amazing experience in faraway places.
Yep.
And it literally adapted to the whole industry. Russian River Brewing Company was they were putting their beer on the trucks with Lagunitas, and this is over 20 years ago, well over 20 years ago now, that they were doing this. And the whole industry, the beer industry, has adapted. Heineken purchased Lagunitas for $1 billion, and they do it even now with their beer coming over in the United States. That beer is now refrigerated from the time it leaves the brewery till the time it gets, hopefully, to the consumer, and then they get a better experience. No more skunky beer.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And so it's like these things and these ideas, these happy accidents that people figure out, or some are planned experiments gone right, but there's a lot of happy accidents, and it's like they make the world a better place.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, think about your flower like you would it was ice cream.
Yeah.
Why would you leave it out in the hall waiting to be trimmed? It should be refrigerated. You wouldn't leave ice cream on a cart out in the hall waiting to be labeled.
Yeah.
Why would you do that with your flower from the time it comes down? So we're doing facilities, not only their dry and cure spaces, but also their trim rooms and their packing rooms are all maintained at the same exact conditions.
Yeah.
So there's no variability from the time the plant gets harvested until it's packaged. And now we're talking to grow facilities that have brands about putting branded cool cures
Yeah.
in the dispensary. So now when someone comes in and goes, hey, why is the flower inside that unit behind the counter? Well, because we respect maintaining the supply chain so you get the best possible product.
Yeah. Well, and at the end of the day, it's about the experience, right?
Yeah.
And so we're trying to provide the best experience, whether it's through my genetics or through your Cannatrol or all these other companies that are part of that chain, you know, and it's pretty amazing once you start breaking it down, because a lot of people, they just see the end result and they don't know all the steps and all the difficulty that it took whoever the cultivator was, and then even all these other steps along the way to get it to that point where, especially if it's really, really good, it's really, really good, but why?
Right.
You know, it's because people put a lot of energy and passion into it to get it to that point.
It's all about craft.
Yeah.
And we're saying that craft will elevate the whole industry.
Yeah.
It did the beer industry, you know, 40 years ago. What do you
Totally.
have? You know,
we had Red Hook and a couple other beers, and you know, but it was all like the big four, you know, with the Budweiser and all the beer like that. And there's nothing wrong with that beer if you like it, but there's also a better or potentially better if, you know, it's quality subjective, but like for me, Lagunitas is better, you know, and Sierra Nevada is better.
Absolutely.
And all these other beers, even Guinness. I'm a big Guinness fan too. I mean, I don't drink really, but yeah, it's pretty impressive, you know? And it's like, we have the potential to bring craft in. The lucky thing for us is we started from craft.
Right.
And, you know, I think there are some big companies out there that are emerging, like really big companies with really big grows, Glass House and these other companies, and they can be the Budweisers, and that's just fine.
That's fine.
Always going to be a market for that.
There always will be, because people want cheap, cheap, cheap. And there's nothing wrong with that. You go buy your cheap. But there's also going to be that next tier up and the tier up after that. And there's going to be a price point for everybody. And you get in where you fit in, you do what you do. And like, I want to provide the best experience possible for the cheapest price possible is kind of our goal. So we want to go where quality and price kind of go in, where it's like still affordable for the average person. But you can go, you know, when we go to market next month, we're going to have a product that smokes amazing, tastes amazing, looks amazing, but it's a little bit cheaper than some of the other stuff out there because we're absorbing some of those costs. We're going to make less profit so we can provide a better quality experience for less.
It's going to be really interesting to see how it evolves and if the consumer is ready. I believe the consumer is just about ready to pay a premium for better flower. You know how I know they are? Because Sonoma Hills is able to sell their flower for a premium. Sonoma Hills Farms, I don't know if you know about that, but they're amazing. They are organic. They're in Sonoma, and the most amazing people. They grow the most amazing flower. Their head grower worked for the French Laundry and managed their vegetables. He was the farmer for the French Laundry for 20 years. There goes that culinary.
Oh yeah, it's in their flower. It burns just as good as any indoor. It's cured perfectly. They do a great job. We adjusted it a little bit in the Canatrol for rolling some of the stuff up for them. But like they have a premium price on their product, and it's a premium product and people are paying for it. And I love that because they're kind of setting the bar for everybody else to be able to charge a little bit more. Same thing with organic. You know, I think from a culinary standpoint, cannabis hasn't fully adapted to the fact that organic should cost a little bit more because it's a little bit harder to grow. The yields are less. There's so much time and effort and money that you have to put into it, and you're not able to use some of the certain pesticides and things that you would use that are OMRI listed, but you're still not going to use it because you want to do it the right way. And you deserve a premium price for that because it costs you a little bit more to do it right. And how about that long cure product? And then the long cure. So you've got, our 60-day gold label and our 90-day platinum. I love that. I love that. And where people are now they're willing to pay for a premium product that was cured a lot longer because they understand that if you're holding on to it, it's going to cost you a little bit more money to hold on to it for a little bit longer. Yep. And, but these are all the growing pains that we have to go through when you're in the infancy of an industry, and it's an amazing thing though. Like I just smile every day when I think about all these interesting things that are going on in our industry that we haven't figured out fully yet. And within another 10 years, it's going to be like, a lot of it'll be figured out. Yeah. A lot of it's going to be standardized. We're seeing standardization already, right? So the industry's moving so fast. Yep. It's, you look at how long it took wine to get from, Mateus Rosé to where we are now. Yeah.
no knock against Matouche Rosé, but
Sure.
but you see how long it took that to happen. It was shorter with beer, going from Budweiser to craft, and I think cannabis, that is even a shorter movement.
Beer, it was since the 30s to the 80s, so 50 years, and then cannabis started out with craft. So it's like they're trying to take craft away in some markets a little bit, and but it's all about accessibility. But there's home growers, so you can grow craft at home, and you can make craft beer or cheese at home too. There's nothing stopping anybody from that. But with cannabis, I think it's just there's something special about doing the home grow too.
It is. It's. I love growing. It's just there's something so satisfying about it when you grow it. Smoke it. It's like, I always say to people, well, I have a little bit of my humble home grow with me, and it tastes great. It feels great. It's like baking or cooking or anything else.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because a lot of people think theirs is the best. And I've come up with the reason why most people think theirs is the best, because they lived with the plant and they fed that plant and they cared for that plant every day. And so in their mind, they knew everything that went along with that, and they think it's the best. And you can say ego, you can say whatever, but a lot of people, they have this understanding of that one thing more than they have an understanding of everybody else's, right? So,
well, it's the best to them.
To them, yeah.
And that's that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Funny story. A guy who I know didn't smoke, he said, I got a plant. You want it? I said, where are you growing a plant? He said, I love growing them. He said, I had some neighbors and they were growing and they had kids in the house, and they said, we can't have the plants in the house with the kids. So they gave him the plants, and then he became passionate about growing. Yeah. And so he just kept growing and then giving away the plants once they were ready to be harvested. But he just fell in love with growing.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is something special about growing, and whether it's tomatoes and being able to share them with your friends and neighbors, or cannabis and being able to show that and share it with other people. And I feel like it's an accomplishment too. When we've done a whole harvest, it's like, if you think of the life of a plant, roughly in flower, they're alive 70 days. We're alive for 70 years. So it's like the equivalence, every day is the equivalency of 1 year in a human life. And so there's a lot
great.
to that.
I love that.
Yeah. And so there's something special about being able to share these things. And tomatoes and some of these outdoor crops, it's like you have one chance to get it right every year, and it's going to change a little bit. I think for the people that grow seasonally, we can get tomatoes year round, but really it's a seasonal crop, right? So yeah, we live in an amazing, beautiful time.
And a lot of fun.
We really do.
A lot of fun. And we meet so many amazing people.
Yeah. And this industry is just filled with, everywhere in the world, there's amazing, interesting people.
A lot of characters.
Yeah.
It's always a good time.
I'm lucky I get to do this podcast. I get to interview a lot of characters, a lot of amazing people, and getting great stories. There's so many great stories. And the beauty of this podcast is like, and all the podcasts in general, is that you're getting stories from a diverse amount of people, and you're understanding the industry better if you really dive into each person.
Yeah. Well, it was amazing for me, having been in other industries over the years, going to trade shows. And there was always that particular type of person that went to that show because of that industry. But once we started going to trade shows in the cannabis world, well, then you saw everyone.
Yeah.
Across every spectrum, walking the aisle. It was amazing.
Well, and there is really every spectrum of everything you could ever possibly imagine with the cannabis industry. It's like you get guys in suits, and then you get guys in drag. And you get everything in between.
And grandma and grandpa.
Yeah, and grandma and grandpa.
Soccer
and you get the
moms,
young, you get the young thugs. You get a little bit of everything. And it's soccer moms. Yeah, that's another demographic. Yep. And there's something for everybody here. And there's the people that want it for medicine. There's the people that want it for sleep. And it's just an amazing thing.
We were down in Argentina at the show.
Yeah.
What show was that? It was a couple of 2-3 months ago. Expo, whatever. And it was a family event. It was on Mother's Day.
Wow.
And on Sunday, the whole family, kids and everything, they had bounce houses outside, and it was a regular cannabis consumer business show. And,
cool.
I asked people, and they said, no, it's allowed, it's legal. So why should we hide it from the kids? We got activities for the kids here. And yeah, it was really eye-opening to see such a different perspective than what we see here on the prohibition side, mind bend in this country.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And people drink so openly. We have bars everywhere, and we're still a ways from having, the stigma go away with cannabis.
Yeah.
But that's going to happen. I think that'll happen in our lifetime.
Yep.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. That'd be great to see.
Yeah, well, we've had so much change, why stop here? Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's get these, I think these smoking lounges need to happen. I think direct sales, just like they get with wine. I think all these farms up north, especially Northern California and places like Vermont and places where people take agriculture serious, I think you should be able to buy your cannabis direct from the farm.
Absolutely.
And I think you should go to the farm and you should hear the story of the guy who grew it and why he selected the genetics he did and what he did special this time as opposed to last time. And, I feel like when you can tie that story, it just makes it a better experience and a better product. And, we deserve to have access like that. And I think we get that with wine. You get that with beer. We deserve it with cannabis too. We're no different.
Yep. In Vermont, you hang out your shingle, come in and get your maple syrup, as you're driving up the road, and it should be absolutely the same for cannabis.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah. What is the cottage law in California? They need to have the cottage law for cannabis. If they don't, they definitely need to. But I think that there should be direct sales to consumers. The tax burden is just so ridiculous.
Yeah. And also it's about trust. It's like knowing where your product came from.
Right.
Like, okay, I always buy my weed from this farmer because I trust him. I know him.
I looked in his eyes and I could tell he's telling the truth,
Yeah. Same place I get my maple syrup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. We live in amazing times.
For sure.
So yeah. So if people are looking to find out more about Cannatrol, or more about you guys, where's the best place to go?
Well, you can always go on the internet, go to our website, cannatrols.com, and you'll see all about our commercial and our home systems there. Of course, on LinkedIn, Cannatrol. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, X, all under Cannatrol.
YouTube. There's tons of information. I was looking on YouTube the other day, and there's just so much stuff out there with Cannatrols.
Yeah, it's great, and people like you and other podcasters who we've been working with. It's great. It's great to get the word out, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, our mission is education.
Yep.
If once people are educated and understand, that's all we're after, is people to understand the science of what's going on,
right,
and eliminate some of the bro science and legacy thoughts that have come around. And there's some crazy ones out there. Some guy's like, "Well, I only hang my plants upside down." I said, "Why?" He said, "So all the terpenes and THC run into the flower."
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay.
There you go. There you go. But I think a lot of people, I bet you there's a good percentage of people that watch this podcast that believe that don't understand. And that's okay too. I think we're doing the Lord's work here.
Yeah.
Sharing information.
You don't believe that now, do you, James?
I do not. Absolutely do not. But I think at one point I probably did. And I think there was a lot
makes sense.
It does. And there was a lot of bro
thing.
science. And the thing is like, you want to hear really why we'd hang them upside down is because when you had spider mites, they'd put a little web on the top and they'd all gather up there. And long time ago, we used to have, bugs were a normal thing, especially even with outdoor, like we had, especially tomato hornworms. I hate them the most. Mm-hmm. But we've had to deal with pest and pest pressure for a long time. As a real farmer, all real farmers have to deal with pest pressure.
Normal.
Yeah.
It's agriculture.
It's agriculture. It's a living, breathing product that needs to be cared for and, a lot of fun.
Yep.
Great.
So one more question. If you had one piece of advice for your younger selves, what would that one piece be?
Carpe diem.
Nice.
For me, do absolutely nothing different, because then I wouldn't be here speaking with you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Butterfly effect.
Yep.
Excellent.
It was great to be here and spend some time with you.
Well, thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank
James. You as well.
Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you guys very much for your support. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe down below.